He assaulted my 15-year-old daughter, so I called her older brother, who was just released from the Marines. What happened next wasn't just justice, it was a reckoning. Before we dive into this powerful story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here on our channel, we bring you raw, emotional tales of betrayal, justice, and redemption that you won't hear anywhere else. If you believe in standing up for truth, even when the system fails, then this channel is for you. Now, take a deep breath, because this story is going to stay with you long after it ends. I remember the exact sound my phone made that night. It wasn't the ring itself, it was the way it interrupted my breath, like the world paused before it collapsed. I was halfway through dinner, fork in hand, when her name flashed on the screen. Maya. My 15-year-old daughter never called during dinner. We had rules, simple ones. But when I answered and only heard her shallow breathing, my stomach dropped. Maya, I said again, my voice cracking. No response. Then, just 3 words. Barely audible, broken. Come get me. She didn't say where. She didn't have to. I knew. I drove like a man possessed. The air was thick with dread, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. She'd been at her best friend's birthday party across town. A good neighborhood. Parents were supposed to be there. Safe. That word mocked me the entire drive. When I pulled up, I didn't park. I abandoned the car. She was sitting on the curb outside the house, arms wrapped around her knees, hair clinging to her face in wet strands. The porch light cast a sickly yellow glow over her, but I saw it, her torn sleeve, the red mark on her cheek, her trembling hands. She didn't look up, just whispered. He said it was a mistake. I dropped to my knees beside her, hands shaking as I tried to wrap my coat around her shoulders. Who did this? I asked, my voice no longer mine. She didn't answer. Just shook her head. I saw the blood on her inner thigh, and something inside me snapped. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. She needed calm. She needed me to hold it together, to be her anchor. So I swallowed the fire and picked her up. She winced. My heart shattered. We're going to the hospital, I told her. You're safe now. But even I didn't believe that. Not yet. At the hospital, everything blurred. Nurses, forms, sterile lights. They took her in for exams. I signed papers I didn't read. The doctor looked me in the eyes and used words like assault, trauma, and violation. Each one hit like a hammer. I stood in that hallway for what felt like years, fists clenched so hard my nails cut into my palms. A detective showed up, took notes, asked her questions, softly, gently. But when she gave a name, his face changed. Subtle. A flicker. Are you sure? He asked. I almost hit him. That flicker told me everything. The name she gave wasn't just any name. It was Caleb Strickland. His father ran the town's biggest real estate company, donated to every campaign, smiled in every charity photo. And now his son, 19, popular, arrogant, had torn my daughter's soul apart. And the detective's face told me they'd try to bury it, try to make it disappear. Like my daughter didn't matter. Like she was just a number on a form, another statistic, another victim expected to whisper and move on. I stood there in that hallway, staring at the detective, and I knew what I had to do. I had to protect her, even if it meant going against everything I believed in. I stepped out of the hospital room once she fell asleep, her hand still holding mine until the last second. And that's when I made the call. The only call that mattered now. The line rang once before I heard his voice, steady, quiet, familiar. Dad, he said. My son. Her brother. 24 years old. Just back from a 6-year stint in the Marines. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just said the words that changed everything. She's hurt. Caleb Strickland. There was silence. Then he replied, I'm on my way. Don't tell anyone else. Let me handle it. And in that moment, I knew. Justice wasn't coming. But reckoning was. The next morning came slowly, dragging behind a haze of disinfectant and restless waiting. Maya hadn't spoken much through the night. She drifted in and out of sleep, clutching the blanket like it was the only thing keeping her from floating away. I sat beside her, holding back the urge to scream into the silence. At one point, she stirred and whispered, Don't let him win, Dad. I nodded, but my throat was too tight to answer. Her trust was a weight I hadn't carried in years, not like this. Not when the system built to protect her was already cracking. The detective returned around 9, coffee in hand, a rehearsed look of concern plastered across his face. His badge hung low, as if even it didn't believe in what he was about to say. "We'll be looking into Caleb," he offered, but he didn't take out a notepad this time. "These things can be complex. Misunderstandings happen at parties. We'll need to interview everyone, gather full context." My blood turned to ice. Misunderstanding? Maya was 15. He was 19. There were medical findings, proof. This wasn't a gray area. This was black and white, and yet they were already dipping it in gray. I clenched my jaw and asked the only question that mattered. "Is he going to be arrested?" The detective hesitated, looked down at his coffee. "Not yet," he said. "We need more than just her word. And Caleb's father has already retained counsel. It's early. We don't want to make a mistake." I stared at him for a long moment, memorizing his cowardice. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I knew I'd be telling this story one day. Every lie, every shrug, every excuse. I stood up, slowly, and leaned close enough for him to smell the night I'd survived. "You just did." After he left, I called my son again. He was already in town. Said he'd been driving all night. He didn't ask for updates, just asked where the boy lived. I told him no, not yet. Not until Maya was stable. Not until we had a plan. But he didn't answer. Just hung up. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if he'd listened. My son had always been quiet, disciplined. But war changed people. And when family was involved, that discipline had limits. I began to wonder not if justice would be served, but what it would cost us. Later that day, a social worker came in, full of pamphlets and practiced sympathy. She handed me papers about trauma recovery, legal aid, and counseling groups. All of it helpful. All of it completely useless against the fear I saw when Maya flinched at the sound of the door opening. The damage was done, and while they passed around folders and filed reports, the boy who hurt her was still walking free, probably laughing, probably being comforted by his parents' lawyers and told it would all blow over. That's when it hit me. They all think it will blow over. But I knew something none of them did. My daughter didn't just have a grieving father. She had a brother with nothing to lose. And Caleb's time was running out. The hospital felt colder the second night. Not just from the air, but from the weight of everything that wasn't being done. Maya barely spoke, except to ask if her brother was coming. I told her yes, even though I wasn't sure what he'd do when he got here. My son, Jordan, wasn't just any older brother. He was forged in desert heat and battlefield silence. He'd been deployed 3 times. Lost friends. Buried pieces of himself in places I could never pronounce. And now, he was coming home. Not for celebration, but for vengeance. Because I made one call. Just one. Jordan arrived just after midnight. No announcement. No dramatic entrance. I looked up from Maya's bedside and saw him standing in the doorway, face like stone. His eyes scanned the room, then landed on her. She sat up, eyes wide, lip trembling, and he crossed the space between them in 3 long strides. He didn't speak. He just knelt and held her. And that's when she broke. Not like earlier quiet sobs, but fully. Loud. Trembling. Like her bones were finally letting go of the terror. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just held her and let her grief fill the room like thunder. When she fell asleep again, he stood and motioned for me to follow him into the hallway. His voice was calm, too calm. "Tell me everything," he said. I did. Every detail. The party. The name. The detective's response. The power Caleb's father had over this town. Jordan didn't flinch. Didn't interrupt. Just listened. When I finished, he nodded once and pulled a folded sheet of paper from his jacket. "A list. This is everything I've found out since you called me." I stared at it. Addresses, license plates, routines. Caleb's gym, his girlfriend, his father's favorite coffee shop. My son had come prepared. I asked him what he planned to do, and he looked me in the eye in that way soldiers do, like weighing if you're strong enough to know the truth. "You don't need to worry about that," he said. "I won't do anything that will send me back overseas in chains. But I will make sure this never happens again. Not to Maya. Not to anyone. I wanted to stop him. I really did. But some part of me, the father, the man who had watched his daughter curl up in fear, wanted him to do exactly what he was planning." The next day, Jordan disappeared. Not entirely. He checked in with me once, just a single text. "I've started." No details. Just that. He didn't come to the hospital. Didn't want to risk being tracked. I knew him well enough to know that once he started moving, there was no pause button. He wasn't reckless. He was calculated. Trained. He wasn't seeking blood. He was seeking balance. And balance required a reckoning. While Maya's case stalled in paperwork and pending investigations, Jordan was moving through shadows. Watching. Studying. Preparing. And deep down, I started to believe he wasn't just here to deliver justice. He was here to teach everyone a lesson, one they'd never forget. The first clue that Jordan had made contact came in the form of silence. Not ours, his. 3 days passed with no word, no message, not even a breadcrumb. I sat in that hospital room beside Maya, watching her sleep, trying to pretend I wasn't wondering where her brother was or what he was doing. Every footstep in the hallway made me tense. I imagined scenarios, him arrested, or worse. But deep down, I knew better. Jordan didn't rush. He didn't improvise. He executed. And somewhere in this town, Caleb was being stalked by a ghost who didn't leave fingerprints. When Jordan finally reached out, it wasn't to me, it was to my brother, Mark. A retired cop with enough ties in the community to keep his name clean but his ears open. Mark showed up at the hospital unannounced and handed me a phone. He wants you to see something. I tapped the screen. A video clip loaded, grainy night vision footage, clearly from a drone or some hidden camera. Caleb, leaving a party. Stumbling. Laughing. And behind him, a figure in a black hoodie watching from a rooftop. Jordan's voice came in, low and measured. He's predictable. Sloppy. No security awareness. Mark handed me a second file, a full profile. Times Caleb left his house. The bar he used his fake ID at. The waitress he flirted with who clearly hated him. And most chilling of all, a timeline of the night he hurt Maya, down to the minute. He's not hiding it, Jordan had noted in one margin. He thinks no one will touch him. I felt sick. Caleb wasn't just walking around, he was bragging. Telling friends it was just a misunderstanding. Laughing about the bruises he left. He thought he was untouchable. That the Strickland name was enough to erase what he did. Jordan didn't go after him right away. He watched, recorded, followed. Slowly, carefully. He wanted patterns, not rage. He started leaving anonymous tips to the local press about the Strickland family's hidden ties. Dirty deals, campaign donations, closed-door favors. It didn't take long before murmurs started circling online. A local blog hinted at a scandal. A community Facebook group mentioned the party. A Reddit thread popped up about justice denied in Woodridge. Jordan was building pressure, quietly, waiting for it to boil. And all the while, Caleb remained clueless, smiling in photos, sipping lattes, never seeing the storm just behind him. Then one night, Mark returned with another video. This one inside a gym. Caleb was working out. The camera zoomed on his wrists, matching red marks from where he'd grabbed Maya. Proof. Jordan had gotten close enough to film him up close without being noticed. The implication was clear. When the time came, there would be no denial. Only truth. Only exposure. Only consequences. Jordan wasn't hunting him to kill him. He was hunting him to dismantle him, piece by piece. And when I watched that footage, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, hope. Caleb thought he was a lion in this town. But he didn't realize my son had become the shadow in the tall grass. And the hunt was almost over. The night it happened, I couldn't sleep. Maya had finally dozed off after another restless day, the nightmares still gripping her like vines every time she closed her eyes. I sat in the hospital chair, half awake, half praying that somehow, justice would finally touch our lives. That's when my phone buzzed. No name. Just a video file. The title was simple. It's done. I hesitated for a moment before opening it, palms sweaty, breath shallow. And when I pressed play, I saw not vengeance, not brutality, but precision. Strategy. My son hadn't lost control. He had executed something I didn't even think was possible. The video showed Caleb tied to a chair in an abandoned garage, his mouth gagged, his eyes wide with terror. But Jordan never laid a hand on him. Not physically. Instead, he stood in front of him, in full view of the camera, dressed in civilian clothes, calm as ever. This is for Maya, he said. And for every girl who was silenced because of your father's money. Jordan listed the times. The injuries. He quoted Maya's hospital report, word for word. And then he showed Caleb a laptop screen, one that played back his own voice from a secretly recorded conversation just days earlier. In the audio, Caleb laughed as he bragged to a friend. She cried like it was her first time. Probably was. The words made my stomach churn. On camera, Caleb's face went pale. Jordan continued. This recording is now with 4 news outlets. One copy is already in the hands of the district attorney. The full transcript has been mailed anonymously to every school board member and council chair in the city. By morning, your last name will be worth nothing. He paused. This isn't revenge. This is exposure. You'll live with what you did, and everyone else will see you for what you are. Then Jordan stepped aside. The camera shifted focus to a wall where he had pasted screenshots. Hospital forms, bruises, diary entries Maya had written in the aftermath, and legal papers showing the DA's failure to act. You won't be touched by me, Jordan said as he stared into the camera. But from this moment forward, you'll never walk into a room without being looked at like filth. And with that, the recording cut out. No blood. No screams. Just truth. Truth delivered with the cold precision of a soldier trained to win wars without ever firing a shot. The next morning, the world erupted. News stations picked it up. The audio leaked online. Hashtags trended. Caleb's father held a shaky press conference insisting it was a smear campaign, but no one believed him. Caleb dropped out of school, lost his internship. His face became synonymous with the word predator. The DA, cornered by public outrage, reopened the case. Within 48 hours, Caleb was in handcuffs. Not because of the law, but because of the light my son had forced into a dark place. Jordan didn't return home right away. He left me a message. Let Maya know she's safe now. I'll come when it's calm. I watched the news that night with Maya. She didn't speak much. But when she saw Caleb's mugshot on screen, something in her shoulders finally relaxed. She leaned her head on my arm and whispered, "He can't hurt me anymore." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because justice didn't wear a badge this time. It wore boots. And it answered a father's call when the system looked the other way. The trial didn't take long once the video surfaced. Caleb's lawyers tried everything, claimed the recording was inadmissible, that it was entrapment, that he was under duress. But none of it mattered. The weight of public outrage, the clarity of his voice on that recording, and the haunting details of Maya's hospital report painted a picture too raw to ignore. When the verdict came in guilty on all counts, Maya didn't cheer. She didn't cry. She just sat beside me in the courtroom, fingers woven tightly with mine, her expression still, her strength quietly blooming beneath the scars. Jordan didn't return for the trial. He sent us one final letter. It wasn't long, just a single handwritten page. He told Maya how proud he was of her, how bravery wasn't loud or sharp. It was found in getting up every morning, even when the world tried to break you. He wrote that she was his hero and always would be. He apologized for disappearing, but said he needed distance. Not because he was ashamed, but because the version of him that handled Caleb wasn't someone he could carry into normal life. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Maya kept that letter in her nightstand drawer. Some nights, she'd pull it out and just hold it. She started therapy, joined a peer support group. She even returned to school a few months later. Not the same one, of course. Caleb's name was still spoken in whispers, but Maya's was spoken with respect. Some kids called her brave. Others didn't know what to say at all. But she didn't flinch anymore. When she walked into a room, she did so with her head up, like someone who had seen the worst of a person and had still chosen to live. As for me, I stopped waiting for justice from institutions. I no longer believed that titles made people noble or that money could buy dignity. What I believed in now was something far stronger: family. Not the kind you pose with for holiday cards, but the kind who walks through fire and comes out carrying you. Jordan showed me that, not through violence, but through calculated courage. He didn't destroy Caleb, he dismantled the illusion that protected him. He didn't rage, he revealed. And in doing so, he gave Maya back something that I thought was gone forever: her voice. 1 year later, Maya stood on a stage at a youth advocacy event and told her story publicly for the first time. I watched from the front row, heart pounding, eyes misted. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She looked out into the audience and said, "They told me to move on quietly. But silence never saved anyone. My brother showed me that truth speaks louder. The room stood up for her before she even finished. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't the end of a revenge story. It was the beginning of something bigger, something stronger, something unbreakable. You've just heard a story of pain, protection, and powerful redemption, a father's cry for justice, a brother's unwavering loyalty, and a young girl's journey from silence to strength. If this story moved you, then subscribe to our channel, where every tale reveals the power of truth, resilience, and family. We share raw, real, unforgettable stories that expose betrayal and honor those who rise from it. Don't just listen, stand with us. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the next chapter might be the one that changes everything.